It is the 26th of August 1909, and a teacher is on an 8-day hiking trip with a group of pupils in Western Germany during the summer holidays. Near the town of Hennef, they are caught in a storm and seek shelter in a barn, but they are turned away. What sounds like a story from the Bible has a happy ending and also a global implication.
Welcome to YD. Why do Germans do things the way they do?
The teacher is Richard Schirmann from East Prussia, who initially taught in Gelsenkirchen. Gelsenkirchen is a city in the Ruhr area, traditionally known for coal mining and steel production, like many cities in the Ruhr at that time, and today particularly known for the Bundesliga club from the Schalke district, Schalke 04. As his pupils lived in poor housing conditions in the industrial city, he took them on regular hikes. The school authorities did not like this, and he was transferred to Altena in the Sauerland region in 1903. There he joined the Sauerländischen Gebirgsverein Sauerland Mountain Association. In 1907 he took over the management of a Schüler- und Studentenherberge, school and student hostel in Altena. These Schüler- und Studentenherbergen had been founded in 1884 and was widespread in German Empire and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The period around 1900 was a time of upheaval. Perhaps due to advancing industrialization, school children and students from middle-class families, initially in Berlin, joined together to form a Wandervogel movement, which organized group hikes in the countryside. Overall, there was a great deal of historicism at the time, a romanticized view on the Germanic and medieval periods, and a certain desire to return to nature. This also gave rise to the Jugendbewegung, youth movement, which went beyond hiking to include progressive education, free body culture, and sing folk songs. For these young people, some of whom hiked for days on end, there was a need for hostels, simple basic accommodation for the night, initially in the form of school and student hostels. Now back to our teacher, who has founded his own Wandervogel group in Altena and wanted to hike with the children from Altena to Aachen, a leisure of 140 to 150 kilometers or 87 to 93 miles for US Americans. It was the summer holidays, and the journey was calculated to take 8 days, so barely 20 kilometers, 30 miles per day. But at least in the Sauerland region, there were some inclines, and of course, they had to carry everything they needed for the trip in their rucksacks. On that fateful day in August 1909, as Richard Shearman himself recounts here, he finally found accommodation in a primary school which was empty during holidays. This is where he came up with the idea that all young people should have somewhere to stay on such hikes, simple and inexpensive, but warm and clean. He wrote an article about this idea in the Kölnische Zeitung, one of Germany's leading daily newspapers at the time, and subsequently gained support in form of cooperation and donation. In close cooperation with the Sauerland Mountain Association, the idea was put into practice and the first youth hostel was opened in a school in 1911. By the end of the year, there were already 17 youth hostels. At Altena Castle above the town, the temporary accommodation in the school was converted into a proper permanent youth hostel with Richard Scheermann as hostel warden. By the end of 1921, there were around 1,300 youth hostels, and by 1928, there were already 2,800. As far as possible, these were located about a day's walk apart. The mountain clubs, which had been founded in Austria-Hungary and the German lands from 1862 onwards, took care of hiking routes and signpostings as they still do today. The first headquarters of the Ausschuss für Jugendherbergen, Committee for Youth Hostel, founded in 1909, was located in Arnsberg in the Sauerland region, as was the headquarters of the Sauerländische Gebirgsverein. In 1919, the Zentrale Hauptausschuss für Jugendherbergen, Central Main Committee for Youth Hostels, was established. Today, the headquarters of the Deutschen Jugendherbergswerks, German Youth Hostel Association, is in Detmold. This concept of youth hostels was also adopted and promoted by other countries. In October 1932, the International Youth Hostel Federation was founded in Amsterdam. Representatives from Germany, Switzerland, Poland, the former Czechoslovakia, the Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, Great Britain, Ireland, France, and Belgium were present. Richard Scheermann became the first president. Since 2006, this association has been called Hosteling International and is based in Welwyn Garden City near London. Imagine what a wonderful development it could have been if school children and students from all countries could simply wander from one hostel to the next during holidays, crossing borders and interacting with other school children and students from other countries, which at that time were still European. But we know that things turned out differently in the years that followed. In the beginning, youth hostels still looked like dormitories where guests slept separately according to the gender. There was good simple food which was eaten in dining rooms. Afterwards, the guest cleans and washed up, and often cleaned the corridors and washrooms. Cars and motorcycles were not welcome. After all, people traveled by foot or bicycle. There are still around 400 youth hostels spread across Germany. One special feature here is that you have to be a member of the Youth Hostel Association to stay in a youth hostel. However, the annual member fee is quite low, with juniors up to the age of 26 paying only €7 per year. 27 plus member or an entire family with children up to the age of 26 pays €27.50. It is often possible to join on the spot before booking your overnight stay. Until 2005, only people up to the age of 27 or families were allowed to use Bavarian youth hostels, but young people and youth groups still have priority. And abroad, it may also be the case that only families or people up to a certain age are accepted. This is partially to avoid economic competition with hotels. It is still the case that guests make and strip their own beds. Also, youth hostel sleeping bags have largely been replaced by bed linen provided by the hostels. Guests sweep their rooms, take out the rubbish, and set and clear table themselves. However, cleaning and washing up duties in communal areas have now become rare. Depending on the youth hostel, parking spaces are still scarce. In Bremen, for example, there's a bicycle cellar but not a single parking space for cars or motorcycles. However, the youth hostel is very modern, with new wet areas in every room and great restaurant where hostels guests can eat very cheaply. Similar to hotels, youth hostels also have their own categories ranging from classic with older furnishing and shared bathrooms to standard and top with modern amenities and ensuite bathrooms. Many youth hostels in Germany are located in old castles, which help to preserve them and gives the accommodation a very special flair. Here is Burg Bielstein around 1950, and here it is today. As a result, some of these castles also host events such as LARPs, where the entire castle is used by LARPers. Other youth hostels are, as originally intended, located in rural areas that are ideal for hiking. When compulsory military service still existed, it was also possible to do a community service in a youth hostel. So if you want to go on a cheap holiday or are looking for something child-friendly, youth hostels are certainly a good alternative. And of course, if you want to go on a round trip because you can easily stay for just one night with breakfast, sometimes for as little as €20. Remarks, addition, and comments in the comments. Thank you for your attention. See you in the next video.